Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My dear fellow Muslims, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let us talk about other things. Let us talk about other matters. Let us divert our thinking than what we have been busy with a lot these days. For that, I choose to talk about Islamic banking and provide some basic information about it. Sure, you hear about Islamic banking, but you may not know how does Islamic banks work. Islamic banking, also known as non-interest banking, started in the late 1970s in some Islamic countries and then expanded afterwards to other countries, Muslim and some non-Muslim countries. The first question is, or question number one is, what is Islamic banking? What is Islamic finance, and the difference between Islamic banking system and the conventional banking system. Islamic banking is a banking system or banking activity that based on the rules and principles of Islamic law. When we say Islamic law, we mean by that Sharia, whereby conventional banks are governed by non-Islamic laws, by other laws. Islamic banking is based on principles that giving or taking interest, riba, is prohibited by the text of the Noble Quran and the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby conventional banks taking and giving interest is essential in it. The whole system is based on that, on interest. This is obvious in its contracts and agreements. In the Islamic banks, we have a body called Sharia Board. It consists of Sharia scholars who are knowledgeable with fiqh al-mu'amalat, Islamic law of transactions, as well as knowledgeable of the contemporary modern way of transactions. The duty of this board or this body is to oversee the transactions and activities, as well as to review the contracts and agreements of Islamic banks to make sure they are in compliance with the rules and principles of Islam. Whereby in conventional banks, there is no Sharia supervision to consider their transactions and contracts at all. Question number two, what are the fundamental principles of Islamic banking system? There are two fundamental principles of Islamic banking system. One, sharing of profit and loss between bank and the client. B, prohibition of giving or taking interest, riba. Question number three, why is prohibited to pay or receive fixed interest in Islamic banking system? The answer is simple. Because in Islam, or Islamically, money is considered to be a medium of exchange only. It has no value in itself. For that, should not be allowed to give rise to more money through fixed interest payments, simply by putting your money in the bank and you get something on top of it, or by lending money to someone else. Means money make money, and this is not allowed in Islam. Something should be there like trading, like buying and selling. Question number four, since Islam or Islamic banks cannot charge interest, so how do they make money? Let me simplify it for you, my brother and sister. The principal means of Islamic finance are based on trading. Therefore, Islamic banks make profits from buying and selling of Sharia compliant or halal goods as well as permitted services and activities. B. Islamic banks use the money deposited by the clients, customers, consumers to trade in a Sharia compliant investments, sharing the risk and the profit between the clients and the bank. There are other tools and structures that help Islamic bank to make more money, such as what we call murabaha, cost plus transactions, such as wakala, agency transactions, such as mudaraba, business partnership transactions, such as musharaka, business partnership as well. Inshallah, these will be explained in the future bi'idhnillahi tabarak wa ta'ala. Things that we have to bear in mind, my brothers and sisters, is that number one, what should be known is that Islamic banks are not charitable organizations. Some people have these misconceptions. Some may tell you that they are Islamic banks, so they have to help me. It doesn't work like that. Islamic banks are not charitable organizations, rather institutions based on profits through trading, which is allowed in Islam. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has permitted trade and has forbidden riba, interest. However, Islamic banks provide cash assistance to the poor and needy through what we call zakat funds and alike. Also, Islamic banks take into account the conditions of those who are unable to pay their debt. As Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 280, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإن كان ذو عسرة فنظرة إلى ميسرة وأن تصدقوا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. And if someone is in hardship, then let there be postponed. Let there be postponement until a time of ease. This is what Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala said, and Islamic banks follow these instructions. Some people, for something in their hearts, claim that Islamic banks is nothing but a sham. They are only a sham. We say it in Arabic, ضحك على الذقون. This claim is not true, because the reality of Islamic banks is not hidden to anyone. Through the contracts and financing they provide to people. On top of that, this industry, Islamic banking industry or Islamic banks, operate under the supervisory or under the supervision of the central banks of countries as supervisory authorities and monitors and audit Islamic banks' activities. So how they can be a sham? How they can be a sham if they are under the authority of central banks of countries? Also, others claim that Islamic banks make more money, make more profit, or charge more profit than conventional bank, without taking into account that in certain countries, Islamic banks make less profits than its counterparts, than conventional banks. Islamic banks in certain countries give more profits to clients than conventional banks. Islamic banks take more risk due to the nature of its contracts and agreements and transactions, such as musharaka, mudaraba, etc., than conventional banks. In any case, this matter is subject of supply and demand. and the norm of the market. So this claim is out. We have no much time to explain more about this. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. More and more people are moving towards Islamic banking, and consumers throughout the world are appreciating the principle of Islamic banking. You as a Muslim, this is an alternative given to you by our ulama. Alternative banking, alternative financial system in order to stay away from riba. In our last reminder, we talk about the danger of interest in the life of individuals, societies, and nations. So this is an alternative for you to deal with instead of dealing in conventional banking system. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم زدنا علما وألحقنا بالصالحين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.